cloud. All right, Chief, you can open the meeting.
Good evening. This is the December 3rd meeting of the Tyngsborough Fire Station Building Committee. The following meeting is being recorded and broadcast through Tyngsborough Media. The meeting is available through our local cable access channel on Comcast and Verizon Fios, and as a live stream on our website, www.tyngsborough.ma.gov. A recording of this meeting will be available through video on demand portion of our website. Open meeting laws require that any member of the audience who intends on recording either video or audio declare so now. There are emergency exits at the directly across me at the rear of the room and one to my left. We're going to start the meeting with introductions, beginning on my left.
Good evening, Paul Alcott, Carol Wickens, Ed McLean,
Heather Murphy.
Wes Russell, Fire Chief. Pat Sands, Fire Department.
Colin Loisel, Town Manager.
Jacob Zwicker, DPW Superintendent.
Right. We have minutes from the November 19th meeting that need approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the minutes of November 19th.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Citizens time. Seeing no members in the audience, I think we can move on from that. All right. This design discussion updates, is that to you, Colin, or
Sure.
H2M?
I can start it off just by saying that I gathered all the feedback that everybody submitted ahead of today's meeting and shared all of it in a document with Aubrey and the H2M team. Aubrey, I don't know, do you want me to pull up that document and we can, I don't know that we necessarily were going to discuss them all today unless H2M needs additional clarity on some of those comments.
You're muted, Aubrey.
Thank you. If you'd like, you can pull them up now and take a look.
Just-
Colin, do you think there are going to be any additional comments? Because I know we anticipated all of them back by Friday. So if there are any additional ones, please
I
let us know.
think unless something changes during the conversation, I think that this represents them all.
Okay.
Share. Just hide some of these. Okay, so the way that I have it broken up is by the different documents we were providing feedback on. So the first one is on the space use analysis. And you can see here that the comment references a section or an item within the space use.
So would you like us to go through them now or add our comments in as we go? Either is.
Need any clarification on any of those comments, then we can just leave it to you to respond to them. But if any of them need elaboration from the people that submitted it, we could solicit that now, whatever's most efficient.
Mm-hmm. I don't believe that I took a look through them. I don't believe there's any further clarification needed on our end, but if there's any on the department's end, just let us know.
Okay. And I guess I'll just summarize. These were all questions about what is included in the space use analysis. These all actually came from the fire chief, so he's very familiar with the needs. So that's not anything earth-shattering in here, just questions about how we may be more efficient or how we can kind of rethink the space.
Mm-hmm.
On the program feedback.
I'm sorry. So are they going to discuss those comments or?
I'm sorry. Aubrey, did you want to discuss these right now?
Or respond to them or?
We certainly can. If you want, we can also follow up with written responses. Because I see you have the column there for that.
I would suggest that we take the time to have the written response and get it back to you. Certainly we can say some short answers here. For example, the first one, bay decon showers could potentially be part of the bay restroom. We sometimes see that, so it depends on the rest of the layout. Transition area, again, shower, restroom would be theoretically close to that. So the transition space is usually along a corridor that the bathroom could be off of. But again, depends on the layout. The first aid room in public spaces, if we're talking about the triage type space, I believe that would belong in the public spaces, so we can reorganize that a bit.
Mhm.
The item J3, I believe if this is the bunker area, we don't know that yet. We have to do our occupancy calculation based on the layout of the building and the program that you've provided. And then the last item, we will relook at that. If we agree that it's excessive, we will come down in the size.
I comment on that, Chief,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you don't mind. On the restrooms, if we're building this for possible future use for the next 50 to 70 years, one of the things I'd look at is getting you guys back in service quicker. When they get back from the fire, they should be deconning, gross deconning, and then taking a shower, getting changed. If you have 5 guys on duty, 3 guys at the same time getting a shower while the the callback guys are still in the station, seems to make sense, and you can flip your shift a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I didn't think about that point. Yeah.
On the EOC, I confirm about having as large an EOC as you can possibly have. The main reason being is that there's probably a need in town for a public safety training area. I don't think the police really have a space, and I don't know if they would be stringent in allowing them or doing combined training at any given time with the police department. So having that, you're building it once.
Yeah, when we originally were looking at a public safety building, we we planned for a much larger room for that and, combined police and fire, even opening it up to other town organizations or something like that. I think, where we're not building a public safety building, the police are gonna build a police station, hopefully sometime in the foreseeable future and probably include a training room in that building as well. We're certainly not gonna, restrict them from using it. I just thought that 400 feet, 1,500 feet seemed like the capacity for, and the architects I'm sure can tell me, for like 65 people or more. And I don't see how we would anticipate the need, even in the EOC, for something like that. So I raise the question for discussion, and we'll, certainly take their recommendations, but I thought, if there's space that we can put storage in and take up some of that meeting space with storage space, maybe for the EOC or training, that might be as well. But I'm just raising a question for discussion.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it for sure.
If you could add a little bit of that commentary to the chart that's being shown on the screen there, we would appreciate that as well.
Since we're on the subject to H2M, do you anticipate further discussion about the EOC, the questionnaire, or the answers to the questionnaire that was submitted? I feel like, just answering questions on paper probably doesn't do the job. I feel like, a conversation at some point.
Yes,
whether-
we definitely, and I believe it's not currently built into the schedule, but we could certainly have a separate meeting to discuss the specific needs for that training / EOC room.
Okay. Then I'll move on to the program feedback. Similarly, these were really just actually clarifying information provided by the chief. I think his comments speak for themselves. I don't think there's much to elaborate on. So then with that, I will skip on to the site layout. One of the things that I will say, and I'm sure the H2M team can talk more about it, Jake and I met with H2M yesterday to talk about potential site options that include incorporating access to Kendall Road. We just had this conversation yesterday, so I don't anticipate that there's much in the way of drawings that we can show. I think that some of the commentary you'll see on here, and I think this came out in our last meeting, there was a desire to avoid having two curb cuts on Middlesex Road directly next to each other. I think one, it's confusing, two, it certainly would complicate traffic. We had originally thought about having a access driveway through the town-owned parking lot off Kendall Road, basically across the street from the existing fire station, and hoping to incorporate that as a return route for apparatus to then pull into the drive-through bays. We workshopped the grades, which Katrina and Jay can talk better about. Where we've landed based on the slope is looking right now at least providing just automobile access. So non-emergency apparatus would come solely from Kendall Road, which would allow us to isolate the apparatus road, if you will, only have one curb cut on Middlesex. And one of the longer term goals that we've had all along was to connect that new town, it's not new anymore, but the parking lot with the 250 parcel. So that I don't have a plan for that, but I know some of these comments dealt with the multiple driveways. So this is one of the solutions that H2M is looking at to eliminate that second driveway. So that addresses the first piece of general feedback, which was is there really a need for two curb cuts? One of the, and we might not be able to address all of these tonight, but certainly something that we're going to need to be prepared to talk about is the traffic, which is what the next series of comments talk about. We know that it will have a signalized intersection. We know that we're going to have to look at how it's connected to the bigger Middlesex Road, Kendall Road intersection, which jumps over the bridge. And I think at our very first meeting, we talked about it to some extent. So there's commentary on that, traffic studies, and what kind of tweaks we might need to make to Middlesex Road, which we'll certainly need to bring MassDOT in. We're meeting with MassDOT tomorrow on an unrelated Middlesex Road project, so we'll certainly give them a heads up that we're in this project and we'll want to talk to them. And then the only remaining commentary is just basically on the single story versus two story, and a question about if the two-story option leaves room for future expansion. I'm summarizing other people's points here, so certainly if folks on the committee that provided feedback want to jump in.
I know that was one of my comments, and I guess what I was looking for was, are there advantages to the two-story model that aren't necessarily obvious, like the potential for expanding the building in the future somehow, or other advantages that maybe aren't obvious to the rest of us? Because I think, you know, that it looks like it could be an attractive model. I'm just wondering if there are other advantages to it.
Generally, the big advantage is a smaller footprint. You know, as far as expansion goes, you know, any part of the first floor footprint is what you'd look at for expansion. The second floor becomes far more difficult, obviously. We would like to look at the one story simply because there's cost savings involved and it's still expandable. And I think as we do this, the parking lot, the access, the curb cuts, Kendall Road access, all that, we're going to start doing some quick conceptual floor plans. And I think in those plans, we're going to look at how do we expand. For example, if you put another piece of apparatus, you're going to have 2 or 3 more people. How would we handle that? We would like to be able to, you know, next time we show you layouts, show you how to do that so that we can maintain this on a single story. And that's going to be one of our goals for our next design meetings.
Anybody else have any questions on the single story versus one story?
When would we have to make a decision on which way to go? I firmly believe that the one story is probably the best option price wise. It's a better look. It's an elevated platform to begin with. The site is elevated anyways, and I'm looking at it from not being, you know, intrusive and taking up too much distracting from the scenic bridge that we have. When do we have to make that decision?
Realistically, our schedule currently calls for our preliminary floor plan submission to be December 31st. So we will need a couple weeks to work on the layout. So as soon as you guys make that decision, the better for timing wise.
Well, the other thing we can do is we can actually give you some layouts, conceptual again, to look at to help you make that decision. We don't want to box you in a corner, hand you something, as expensive as a complete layout and then say, hey, you have a week to make a decision. I'd rather work it the other way around and help you make that decision as you're looking at it. So by the 31st, we're all on the same page. And I think that's very doable.
And I think that's what I was thinking too, is without really seeing what the layout looks like on the first floor versus the second floor, kind of hard for me to, clearly, the first floor model is gonna be a cost savings. But at what cost are we doing a cost savings? And that's what I'd like to be able to see.
Understood.
I think getting those mock-ups for the 17th meeting would be great so that we can discuss it then. Because they said they needed it by the 31st.
Like, if
Well,
I,
2 weeks before.
maybe you could clarify, I guess what I understood was that you could provide us those optional layouts by the 31st, and then we could make a decision. Is
I
that,
thought it was
is that not what I understood, or?
Yeah, that is exactly what I said. They're not going to be highly detailed plans, but they're going to be enough to show you, the bays, the firematic support, a layout of the admin, where the bunks are, in a way that we could say, okay, this is an area where we can add a bay. This is an area where we can add 2 or 3 or 4 bunks and show you, if it is possible on the 1-story and what is or is not possible on a 2-story. And then you guys can look at flow, layout, operations, safety of 1 floor to 2 floors and make a decision that way. And yes, we can do those layouts in the next couple of weeks to help you make those decisions.
Great, so yeah, maybe the 17th is good, but if not, certainly by the 31st, right? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, within a couple of days, but yeah. You already know my attitude that Mike and Aubrey don't do anything between 3 and 5 in the morning except sleep, so they got a lot of time.
Thanks, Dennis.
Anytime.
What was next, Colin?
Unless anybody wanted to talk more about the site layouts at this stage, I know I threw in the wrench that we're going to look at a site layout that includes the back access to Kendall. But in terms of feedback, this was the last item for previously submitted documents. Daryl, Paul? Okay.
I guess my only, excuse me, not to, that, but my only comment about the site layouts is I think that, the H2M team should understand that the Littlefield Library, while is certainly going to be there, gets very little traffic in it now. And certainly that could change, but it's not a high traffic flow building. I don't know if Colin, if you have an idea as to how to estimate, how often people are going there and how many people or something like that, but it's extremely low. And certainly in my mind, sharing access with that building would not be prohibitive.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit in our meeting yesterday. I was going to say on Tuesday, but it was yesterday. The only other thing that we should consider, though, is that by building the fire station up there, we are eliminating another parking source. And so even if the Littlefield Library, I think right now it probably sees a max of 6 cars twice a month at most. But certainly when we have things like Festival of Trees, people park up in that area. But you're right, the Littlefield Library is not generating daily traffic or even weekly. It's probably bi-weekly.
So just to help you when you work on the site layouts, to understand really what that issue is there.
Thank you for that clarity.
Just for clarification, so when there's a call, the exiting trucks, ambulance will go out onto Middlesex Road, not here.
That's correct. In all of our options, that's what we,
I know Jake brought it up before, but, some days you get your bottleneck there because the folks turning left are way back past Enterprise, Rockland Trust. And I visualize, especially on Christmas.
yeah.
You're trying to get out of there and nobody can move.
I appreciate that question. It's actually been brought up by other people as well. And certainly the, the fire station location isn't going to have an impact on that traffic, making it better or worse, I don't think.
Yeah, but they.
And so I think when I look at being able to leave on an emergency call, I firmly believe we're gonna be in a better situation. And one of the issues we have now is the traffic backup now onto Kendall Road is right at the end of our path. It's
Yeah.
right there.
What brought it
And-
to my mind was the don't block the box.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't care how big you make that sign. Everybody blocks
Sure.
the block. I'm sure you guys see it all day long. I sat there, not blocking the blocks, and the people behind me, we're not
Blocking the whole
whole.
yeah.
It's like, why are you stuck? You're not going anywhere. You're only going.
So at the point where we pull out onto Middlesex Road from the egress now from that property. We would have hopefully we would have some kind of traffic control there at the driveway that we would be able to activate before the truck even gets there. So what that does is gives a red light to any other traffic going north or south, and would give us a green light to get out.
Yeah.
As well, when you get down to the Kendall Road intersection, there's 3 lanes there, which gives a lot of opportunity. And again, if we trip the traffic control, and what happens is that traffic in the southbound lane will get a green light, all 3 lanes. Everybody else coming off the bridge or coming off 113 or coming north get the red light. And that gives them the opportunity to kind of get out of our way before we get there. And with the 3-lane wide intersection, it's, I have driven emergency vehicles for over 40 years in Tyngsborough, in the city of Lowell, and all the communities around the city of Lowell. And I'm very confident that we will be in a better situation coming out on the Middlesex Road, doing all those things that I've talked about, than where we are now. It certainly won't be worse.
Sounds like it's well thought.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
And, that obviously pending is getting those traffic controls and I don't know what the process is for that, but even without them, that 3 lanes gives a lot of options for people to get out of our way before we get there. I feel good about it.
Okay.
All right, where we at?
That does it for the site layout and our feedback. So once H2M provides the written feedback where necessary, I think on the program, there's probably not much feedback required. I'll reshare this with the whole committee so that you can see their responses. The other remaining design items Aubrey shared ahead of this meeting with me just a few minutes ago, and is going to tease, but I'll share the full document for you, the existing conditions. So I can pull that up right now. Maybe, potentially, depends.
I have it up too, Colin, if you need me to share it.
That would be fantastic. I will stop sharing if I.
Okay.
All right, all you.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So what we worked on since our last meeting is our professional recommendations report, which consists of the existing conditions assessment. So we conducted a walkthrough November 4th of the existing fire station. We took a look at site, the building envelope itself, walked through the interiors, not just the firematic areas, but also the administrative office and bunk areas. We took a look at the structural systems that were apparent, HVAC systems, electrical and plumbing, sprinkler, and we also evaluated the life safety code and accessibility compliance of this facility. So throughout, we include an evaluation metric from poor all the way to excellent. So you'll see that throughout the report.
Get any excellence?
Let's see. So yeah, so we talk about the building envelope and the interiors. We included imagery to help support our what we noted throughout the station.
I'll just
And
add that we are still in process. This is a draft. So while Aubrey has shared it with Colin and you all will see it, we're still working on some adjustments, adding some information, some more photos. But again, making it very clear the metrics by which we are measuring the performance of the current station.
Mhm. And of course, incorporating any feedback and any initial feedback that you have as well. So we talk about the life safety code accessibility compliance areas. We highlight some areas where you are non-compliant at the moment. And then we have a section on the proposed new construction site because we also walked that site on November 4th and took a look through the existing school. We have a section on our standards and recommendations. We have a lot of references to FEMA 186, or formerly 186. It's now called a very long name, Safety and Health Considerations for the Design of Fire and Emergency Medical Services Stations. I know that in our last discussion, we really want to highlight the contamination risks. So we have a section on that. We also have an overview of codes, regulations, compliance specific to this site. We go into sustainability and what our recommendations are for what's currently existing and the new station design. And this is actually broken out as well into, the site architectural sustainability goals that we will certainly incorporate. And then the last section is our overall recommendations and concluding summary. At the end of our meeting, I spoke with Colin, and we wanted to make sure that we include our overall recommendations, again, highlighting cross-contamination as a critical health and safety concern due to cancer being the leading occupational hazard within the fire service. We give a high-level summary of the contamination risks and how we plan to mitigate that with the new design. And that is our first draft. So please take a look through. As Katrina mentioned, we are going to continue updating it and incorporate any feedback that you have as well. Katrina, is there anything you wanted to add?
I'll just say, as we're incorporating the comments that we received from this group, any place that you see duplication of materials, we're going to streamline some of it so that the important information about strategies to address cross-contamination, as an example, is really in the area where we're making the recommendations. So we're trying to keep it very clear as to here are existing conditions and the issues we see with them using the metrics that we are using for all designs. Then the recommendations of what should be done for best practices and what our assessment is overall, looking at the existing facility and considering the new location.
Anybody have any questions? I guess I would just comment that certainly we have talked about highlighting the contamination risk and cancer risk inherent in the way we're set up now. But if you folks identify other risks that maybe we haven't identified, certainly bring them to light so that we're
Yeah,
aware.
so we incorporate issues like such as apparatus bay clearance, and we highlight imagery as well. And we have sections on why that is a safety issue. We also go into decontamination itself, not just incorporating, the red, blue, and yellow zones, but also specifically having separate gear storage as an example. So we do go into the main high level concerns that certainly we'd like to highlight and address.
Right, and certainly as part of the existing conditions portion of the report, we will have very specific examples of, this, let's say for the envelope, this is a concern, this is an issue. The interior, whether it's firematic or the living side, we will have very explicit examples and in many cases photos that explain very clearly this is the issue that we see. So it's not just contamination. While that is a critical thing and one of the highlights, as you've said, there are other issues, hazards, risks that are being taken with the way that it's currently organized. You're limited by what you have. So for example, one of the things that's not written out too much in there yet is that the current station has that lower level where the exercise room is located. And that's certainly closer to the pond area. If there were ever to be an issue on that portion of land where it currently sits, the new station is much higher, would be much higher. So there are things like that that we will highlight and have examples for.
Great, thank you.
What about operationally, chief? You can't have the ladder and the tanker in the same building. And the deficiency in the town's water supply, you need that extra water.
Right.
If you're only getting one engine, you get 500 gallons, right? And what do you get on the ladder?
Yeah, 500, yeah.
So,
yeah, we have, our pumps tend to have larger tanks,
so that's
750s, some 1,000s, because of that.
an initial attack.
I think they're talking to you about hazards to the firefighters. Right, operationally,
This should be an all-inclusive document to include that. Not being able to access that truck is pivotal. It's key to you guys, especially if one time.
We will definitely incorporate that into the report, into the second draft.
Yeah, I think one of the other things we have to talk about the existing station is, can you incorporate current trends? Can you future-proof it? Can you improve the flow in the operations, et cetera, et cetera? And if you can't do any of those things, then, hanging on to this relic may or may not make a lot of sense. All right. Maybe you can squeeze another couple of years out of it, but eventually you're going to be in the same position you're in right now. You can only do so much with that existing building. The site has restrictions. The building itself has restrictions. In order to meet the trends, the goals, the codes, gender equity, camaraderie, health and well-being, and on and on and on, and future-proofing, the current building just doesn't have the structure, the infrastructure, the layout, or the site to do those things.
Right.
And I think that's an important part of the report, is to say that so that people who read the report understand, okay, this building has lived its useful life. We can't really take it any farther. So where do we go from there?
That's great, Dennis. I was writing some of that. I don't know that it got into the draft.
It did.
Okay. So exactly, it's, if you add a transition zone, let's say, you're going to be taking up other operational space, whether it's the training room or an office or a bunk room, you're going to lose that, which you already have and need. So expanding the footprint on the existing site is mentioned, but Dennis is absolutely right on that.
Very good. I actually have one other question I was reminded of we call it the program document or programmatic document?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe it's for Colin, but when you talked about energy, you talked about mass stretch code. Is that something that the town adopted previously, or,
Not to be confused with the super stretch code, we have the basic. We
okay,
have not adopted and I'm sure that HTM will talk better about this. There's like the Concord's of the world have adopted a very stringent stretch code. We have, I think, just the bare minimum that we were.
No, we have one step. It's
Oh.
3 steps. We're in the middle.
Thank you, Pat. We're in the middle.
we have the middle stretch code, okay. And
Okay.
that speaks to green energy and that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And we can definitely dive into that more certainly during our MEP programming meeting that is upcoming.
All right, very good. We'll move on to public outreach, is that right?
Yes.
Outreach planning.
So just a couple of notes on things that are pending. Obviously, on Saturday is the Fire Association's event at the fire station. Chief Russell sent over a couple items that they thought would be helpful to have on signs displayed. So when we talked to HTM yesterday, they're working on that. They'll send it to us and we'll print it on a big poster that the association can display in the, and we'll send the graphics to you all as well, because these will be good talking points. At the same time, this week, Tyngsborough Media was busy filming a bunch of different videos. They spent a lot of time over at the fire department. I know Chief Russell participated. They got some B-roll. And I did a less technical overview video. One of the things that we've talked about before is that we need people to understand why we're talking about this now, how we're paying for it, why we chose the site that we chose, given the sensitivity around that site. That's going to be something we have to talk about. So the series of videos that I filmed with Roni on Monday focus in on those basic level questions. Basically, if you look at the Fire Station Building Committee's page, we have that series of FAQs. A lot of those questions are what we're going to turn into shorts, which go on social media. People aren't reading. Many people will, but not everyone will read our long FAQ. But they will watch a 35-second or 45-second short on social media. So those are all in the editing phase right now. I've prioritized a couple, largely just based on some of the feedback that I've seen online, which really talks about the site that we chose. So you'll start to see those trickle out, not in an overwhelming capacity where people get sick of hearing it, but on a scheduled basis starting midweek next week. I'm also going to share with the committee, ideally by Friday, but at some point before Monday, a proposed schedule of outreach that really takes into consideration all the different things that we'll have to do between now and town meeting for us to discuss in more detail at your December 17th meeting, but also because I think that one of the things we'll have to really focus on is making sure that in every step of the way when we do these public outreach events, that there are members of the Fire Station Building Committee at these events. So one of the things that I'll share with you is a list of the community groups that we're aware of. We have a list because many register to use our Center for Active Living. But you all may know other groups that we don't know of. And so there'll be a two-part approach. One, as I mentioned last time, these are groups that I think it would be worth for me and a member or two of the committee to go to their regular meetings to bring the information to them, not just to tell them why we're doing it now, but also to see what questions they might have, because if they're thinking it, other people may be thinking it. And if we go into town meeting knowing what people are going to want to know, ideally having already addressed it, we'll be in a better position. So if you look at that list and you are a member of one of those groups or you know somebody in those groups, let me know. I might need help making connections to the groups, but also having somebody who's familiar with them come to the meetings will be helpful. And certainly if you know groups that are not included on our list, adding them to the list will be helpful. We're working with the school department to make sure that the PTO and the superintendent's newsletter include information about the Fire Station Building Committee. Ideally, we would go to a PTO meeting. I'm not sure the cadence on how frequently they meet, but we're looking into that. We'll
Would you
continue.
say we, a
Us.
couple of representatives?
Yeah. It's never ideal for more than a quorum to go because then we have to post it as a public meeting and
Right.
take meeting minutes, and that can be kind of bizarre. Ideally, it would be me and one or two building committee members, depending on the cadence of the. And then we'll continue in conjunction with the videos that Tyngsborough TV will release to keep it active on Tyngsborough MA, our social media, the fire social media. The last one that we put out was very well received. There was not really any negative comments, a lot of shares. So the information is getting out to people. The newsletter that the library does now, the bridge included an update also where people could find information, who to contact, when your meetings are. So we're open to any other ideas that folks have. I think when you see the calendar, don't be shy, email me back, let me know if there's something missing, but we'll talk about that calendar on the 17th as well. We're not at a point where we can tell people what we think the cost will be. I mean, I can tell you that it'll probably be somewhere near 20 million, but we should get people involved, giving us their feedback and building that community momentum now so that May is gonna, I mean, it's already December, May is gonna be here incredibly quick. And it's not just town meeting, we have to keep, if we have positive momentum at town meeting, we have to keep it alive for a week so that people show up to the polls and vote. So that's just an overview of what is already in the works, but certainly if we want to go around and see if people have feedback on either what I proposed or other proposals, that would be helpful.
Yeah. I love the idea of the shorts column. I think that's a really easy way to consume for the public. You mentioned starting with the site, which I think is wise. I would also recommend cost and how much how much it will be. That's what I've seen online, like Tyngsborough Talk, etc. Like there's a lot of comments like, oh, we can't afford this, we just had a middle school, etc. So I think that should be the next, target after the site would be the cost and why and how and all that.
Mhm.
Once we know it. Yeah.
Daryl, any ideas or comments?
No, I think you got a ton of it up. I'm a part of Rotary, so welcome to join.
Yes, that's great.
Free breakfast problem.
Love that.
Can't pass that up.
Excellent.
The Chiefs will be there.
Right.
Well, and I just have one question. What about the disposal of the current building? What is gonna happen to that? Because that's a question that I've heard a couple of times.
Yeah.
The current fire station.
Generate revenue, excuse me.
Current fire station?
Yes.
Certainly the select board will ultimately decide what happens to that building. There are several options. I think that previously I've thought that would just be knocked down and we would expand the town center parking. That we've spent a lot of time enhancing the town center, so I wouldn't want that building to just sit there vacant. We have a sewer department that might need a building at some point. The building could be modified. Alternatively, we could do a request for proposals to see if there's a small business that wants to put something that fits with the zoning is relatively restrictive. We made it restrictive I think 2016 because the town center, we wanted to make sure that it was something that fit. Like you wouldn't want a Walgreens there probably.
Right.
But we could do a request for proposals. Whatever the option is, none of it is going to be a revenue generator that will substantially reduce the impact of the borrowing.
I understand that, but some of the comments that I've heard, we just tore down the multi-service building on Lakeview. We're looking at an RFP on recreation department. Why have another piece of property?
Yeah.
Why not find a way to repurpose it? Maybe not necessarily for the town, but maybe a small business would like to go in there and enrich the aesthetics in the town center.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those options are certainly.
And I'm sure the select board will be looking for input on that but it's not really part of this committee to.
It isn't, but it's part of the public outreach where you have to have.
Good point. Good
Answers to the question.
Well, and to Ed's point, even though his question wasn't about the revenue, somebody will certainly ask, and actually, I don't know who, but somebody definitely asked me already, like, can we sell that building to help reduce the cost? I'm sure we could sell it. The uses are limited because of the zone. So I just don't want people to think that there's this possibility we could sell the building, make so much money that the borrowing is
It's gonna be peanuts
Yeah.
compared to what the cost of the fire station is gonna be, but.
anything would help. Yeah.
No, I think, I've had a few back and forth with Colin about, public outreach and just coming up with a cadence and a plan. So I think as far as tonight is concerned, I'm good.
Do you need anybody for Saturday, Colin, still?
The last I spoke to the fire association, they were good.
I think Heather Sue is planning on going. With that.
I did offer, I have not heard back from the captain yet,
Okay.
so.
We need a backup bridge.
You offering me?
I'm told they've got a Grinch and a Cindy Lou Who already.
Already understand, yeah. I will be out of town, but unfortunately, I won't be there. Jake? I just, as part of the public outreach, I feel obligated to, just make a comment that, you know, you talk about some of the social media that you've seen out there. And it's unfortunate that there is a lot of bad information being posted on social media by people who are very well spoken and can easily make people believe that they somehow know what they're talking about. And I would urge anybody that has questions about the operations of the fire department or what we're doing, and specifically the ambulance service keeps coming up, to just come and visit and we'll answer your questions. We've probably done a poor job of promoting how successful the ambulance service is. You know, self-promotion is something that's kind of on the back burner because we have so many other higher priorities. But certainly, you know, I'm making plans to try to address that through our website and stuff as well. But the last report I have from the finance director is that the retained earnings for the ambulance fund is over $100,000. And that's after buying an ambulance a couple of years ago. And in this fiscal year, we're running well into the black as well. So there's no truth to any of the comments about the town losing money with the ambulance service at all. The revenue from the ambulance service pays for 2 of the 4 firefighters that are on duty 24/7. So the loss of that revenue would be devastating to the fire department, and I think to the communities. And there's a lot of other great reasons besides money that the ambulance service has been a boon for the community and the fire department.
Just the service alone, the response times are incredible. And the fact that the ambulance is in town, the majority of times, or an ambulance is available. Kudos to you, chief. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how they do it.
I would just say, if there's anybody you can talk to, have them call me, come visit the station. Well, our doors are open. So if you have questions, you're reading something on social media that sounds questionable, come and see me and I'll give you what I have. I have the facts. I'll give you facts.
And Chief, I've actually seen what you've described in regards to our, articulate, misinformation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I commented to say, hey, go to the fire department. Okay.
Or to the town manager, or to the finance director, or
you see what I saw.
I can tell you that none of the people making those comments have reached out to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah, like I was one of the first people to say, hey, go to the source, go to the website, like just really think about it before you jump on the bandwagon of no.
all right, the look ahead.
Yes, so I will share the first draft program report that Aubrey walked the group through with this committee following this meeting. Your next meeting is on December 17th, so review that. If there's feedback for H2M, it'd be ideal, again, if you sent me your feedback ahead of time so that I can send it all consolidated to H2M, but we'll do another walkthrough. In the next couple of days, you'll get a schedule with me for proposed outreach. We won't finalize those until your next meeting, so I know who's interested. And when when we have something to share on the site layout that includes access to Kendall Road, we'll share that with you, as well as the written responses to some of the comments. Again, some of it won't require written response that we went through in the feedback earlier.
And you're providing a list of.
And I'm providing a list of community groups that we're aware of, which we don't track community groups. It's just the ones that have registered as a community group to utilize the Center for Active Living for meeting space. So it's not like we have some magic database of people, what they're involved in. Just gonna be clear on that.
Double check the database. Did you have something to ask?
I was pointing.
One still thinking breakfast.
Yeah.
Right. One is Rotary.
I was thinking pre-run.
Yeah. Does anybody have any additional discussion points on the committee? H2M, did you guys have any final comments?
Just really quick, this is more of a scheduling item. If you guys could if you could send over some dates for the potential EOC programming portion, that would be great.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
you good?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Motion, meeting adjourned.